Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So tonight, there's a few things was floating through my mind when I was sitting meditation, as usual, and a few of the things that come up was this body of ours. So we each have one. We've grown up with it, we're old with it, but yet so much of it is we take it for granted till something goes wrong. So the thing that comes up is my wrist was playing up for the last couple of days. And it's just kind of, when everything's working well, the leg carries you around, wake up with energy, you hardly notice it. And then when something goes wrong, you realize, wow, it's a very complicated thing, but everything has to come together just at the right time for everything to work. I mean, for you, things we take for granted, like walking around. Obviously, all the muscles have to work in conjunction together, sense of balance, have to work. And then there's what we take for granted. There's so many processes come together for this body to do what it does, to do what it does. The breathing process, digestion, seeing, hearing, touch, all sorts of things that could go wrong. And yet we expect it to be reliable, dependable, to be working all the way to the ripe age of, 80 and 90 years old. Well, I want to live long. But really, what we really want to do is to live a healthy life with energy, life with clarity. And that's difficult, given this body, because it is, it will wear out. And it's the fact that it works for as long as it does, the fact that everything comes together the way it does. It's kind of amazing, actually. Everything comes together just at the right time for us to function. And yet, it's also given us, reminded us, the teaching of the Buddha, that while we like things to be reliable, I want my hand to work properly when I'm trying to light the fire, or wake up, or hold things, it doesn't always work. The Buddha's teaching on, anicca, unreliability. It's a new slant to the word impermanent. That things aren't reliable, certainly not the body. And it's nice when it's, reliable, dependable, but the nature of things is, yes, it will change, and it won't be so reliable. And it's just reminding us, yes, this is part of life, starting with our own body. We can't control our body with our hands. How can we control anything else? That's much more complicated. We like to start with the body to be reliable. Certainly the mind should be reliable. That's also turning out not to be so reliable either. Memories fade away, forget things, misremember it. We like to feel good all the time. It doesn't always happen. Moods and emotions that we rely on to work. So starting with our own body and mind is just telling us, day in and day out, that it is not reliable. And when you forget the teaching of the Buddha, then obviously a sense of frustration, disappointment comes up when things aren't reliable. Oh, it shouldn't be this way. I was trying to remind myself, yes, of course it if it shouldn't be this way, it wouldn't be this way. So things are right according to causes and conditions. And that, being a practitioner, student of the Buddha, our job is just to learn to accept things for the way they are, to embrace, unreliability. Yeah, like Ajahn Brahm said, there's nothing wrong with my wrist. It's not supposed to work all the time. That's what happens when you have a wrist. It breaks down from time to time, maybe more than once. But once we learn to step back and to view the world not in terms of me and my things, but this is Dhamma expressing yourself, that things don't work. People don't behave the way they're supposed to be. Or they behave the way they're supposed to be, but not the way you may want them to be. But that's normal. So it encourages us to step back, to accept unreliability, undependability. It's the nature of things. Well, we may be full because the sun rises and the kitchen stays in one place. People generally act in a certain way. But from time to time, things come up, and it's unexpected. It's just keeping reminding us, yes, well, we like things to be reliable, to be the same. It doesn't always that. Behind this reliability is a lot of uncertainty, unreliability, undependability. But we remember the teaching of the Buddha, and we accept these things. They're part of life. Then we suffer less. There's space around things when things go wrong. We don't blame our hands for not working. We don't blame other people for not working well. We understand, yes, this is life. Things are unreliable. Things don't turn out the way we want them to. People don't behave from time to time the way we want them to behave. So this reminder of acceptance, that's part of life, accepting change, uncertainty. We accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that was something I remember from one of the Dhamma talk. It's everything belongs. We can always learn from things. When we face these difficulties, problems, instead of blaming ourselves for suffering or blaming others for causing us to suffer, we don't have to go there. That's the trap of the world. That's the trap of ordinary people. The path of a practitioner is to learn from life. Like I said, there's no such thing as a problem. There are only challenges. How do I grow from this? How do I learn from this? And the bottom line is, you can't learn or grow. There's always patient endurance. Always patient endurance. Yes, this difficult situations, I'm not going to die from it. So allow me to grow. To be a bit more patient, a bit more acceptance. That life don't always turns out the way we like it to. Life is not always so logical. People are not so always logical. From our logic anyway. I think they're logical from their point of view, I'm sure. But we accept, we allow things to be. We're trying to learn from it. That's always how I try to approach, being a senior monk. How do I learn to work with this situation? How do I learn to not to make a problem out of this? What's the best course of action to move forward? How do we move in a way that is expressing the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha? How do we move in a way that is in accordance with simplicity, with contentment? Yes, I'm going to say some people notice there's a few things happening in the monastery. All monasteries have a few things happening. So it's building projects, so it's things to fix, so it's a leaky faucet, broken roof tile, broken car. Well, Buddha Dhamma has all of those, of course. All the time it seems, something's broken. But doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of living in a monastery, part of living life. In the material world, things break down. Last few weeks, we have the suffering of having an old car that broke down. Well, in a few weeks' time, we won't have the suffering of having an old car that broke down. We have the suffering of taking care of a new car. I guarantee you, that won't be the end of suffering. There'll be other types of suffering involved. And sometimes, we come to a monastery, we expect to, not to suffer, to be really happy all the time. And certainly there's a potential. But I always remind people, this is not where you go if you want to be happy. It's not where you go to be happy, really. This is where you go to understand your suffering. It's where you go to see it more clearly, that there is no distractions. Generally, we're encouraged not to use the phone so much. We're not encouraged to no music, no entertainment. We're encouraged to talk to people, other people so much. We're encouraged just to kind of be by ourselves. To see clearly where suffering arises in our life. And how do we understand it? And hopefully through understanding, that's the magic bullet, through understanding, suffering ceases, fades away. So hopefully in the monastery, we're encouraged not to try to run away from our suffering, but really to be with it, to understand it. There's a problem, you're unhappy for whatever different reasons. Instead of blaming yourselves that you're just not smart enough, not good enough to manage your life, not having good enough karma to have a happy mind, have great jhanas, or blame others that they're evil, they're causing me suffering. We try to understand this is the nature of life. There are differences, there are suffering. But how do I grow from this? How do I learn from this? How do I minimize the suffering for myself and others? How do we move in a way that's in accordance with Dhamma? How do I increase harmony in the community? How do I lessen the suffering of myself and others? And a bit of, sometimes we don't always get it right. But that's not the point. The point is, we try the best we can, giving our own confusion, distraction, our inclinations at the time, our kilesa. We try to grow from each situation, to learn. And there's always this body and mind of ours, we're always with it. If we see clearly, we look inward, there's always things to do. There's always spiritual qualities to develop. It's always more patient, more energy, more peace, more clarity, more truthfulness, more sila. Lots and lots of different things. So for myself anyway, it's always been a path of increasing path of clarity. And also with that, increasing path of happiness, of peace. And there is a sense of happiness, a sense of well-being that grows, that increases, from day to day. And just, and also sometimes, it's good to reflect on, the great fortune that we all have, to be living in a community, to be practicing. To live in a community where people are intending wholesome, increasing, to be intending towards wholesome states, to do the best they can. And that's a rare thing that we have in this world. Yes, there's always, differences, views and opinions from time to time, different ways of doing things. But that's not a problem. That's where the opportunity to grow comes from. We all think alike, do alike things. There's no growth from differences. The fact that we're different, the fact that we have, different wishes and desires, different views and opinions. But how do we grow together? How do we grow or allow each other space to grow at their own pace? And we do that by just following the Dhamma, following the Dhamma of the Buddha, or patient, or giving people the benefit of the doubt. But also with accepting unreliability, accept undependability. That's part of life. Our body is unreliable, our mind is unreliable. If we are like that, and so is everything else around us. Every single person you see and look at, unreliable, undependable. The thing we can depend on is the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha. So through it, we grow in acceptance, hopefully grow in peace. And it's through sometimes, and it's living, the sila is good, but a lot of time is the form of meditation. It is to stilling the mind that we see clearly. Where is it that we're making suffering for ourselves and others? Where is it that we're looking outward, where we should be looking inward? How am I relating to this situation? How am I relating to life? Is it through acceptance? Is it through forgiveness? Is it through letting go? Or is it through more expectations and disappointments and blaming? How do I grow from this as practitioner? And yes, I think to come to a monastery is a precious thing. Because yes, in theory, we can practice anywhere. Practice at home, practice in lay life. But if that was possible, or that was the most efficient way, the Buddha wouldn't have kind of set up monasteries and institutions, monastic. Because it just allows people coming together to practice and to support each other. It allows, it kind of encourages us to go in the same direction. Also remind us, we're here to lessen suffering. Not to escaping from it, but to understand it, to see clearly. You see clearly, where is it am I suffering? How am I making suffering for myself? How am I making a problem out of this? Through wanting, through expecting, through longing. And how do I lessen my suffering? And lessening suffering is not through getting what you want, managing things or people according to your wishes. You lessen suffering by letting go, by understanding that things don't go according to our wishes. Things go according to causes and conditions. And it's through understanding, seeing clearly, the suffering ceases over and over again. So whenever we suffer, we look, what am I missing? I'm not seeing clearly. Instead of blaming ourselves or others, we try to understand, to grow in wisdom. And wisdom grows through more acceptance. And kind of feed each other. The more you see, the more you understand, the more you accept people and things for the way they are. Because they can't be any other way. So we all come here to lessen our suffering. Yes, some people we want to come here to be really inspired and be happy. It's there, it's part of the path. But through liberation, through true freedom, it's a freedom from wanting, freedom from wishing, freedom from longing. True liberation, this ability is just to be happy with the way things are, and not want it in another way. To truly be happy, to accept the present as it is. So we lessen suffering through understanding. And hopefully as we grow and we practice, this wisdom increases naturally, organically, through just walking the path, one step at a time, one day at a time. As long as we don't give up, we all will get there. So offer those few words for your reflection tonight. We end suffering through seeing clearly.